Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Williams. I do apologize for submitting this late. I've been sick all week, so it hasn't been exactly fun. So, we're going to be talking about the film Get Out, and it had a release date of February 2017. I think the uh, premiere of it was in January of 2017, and it was written and directed by Jordan Peele, which we all know of Key and Peele comedy sketch work, which is the only reason I knew who Jordan Peele was. Uh, so, a brief synopsis of the story: you have Chris Washington, who is a photographer. He's an African American male, and he's dating a white woman. Um, he visits his girlfriend's family for the weekend, only to discover that her family abduct and hypnotize black people, transplanting their consciousness to the highest bidder, while trapping the victim's mind in a void called the sunken place. Um, also, uh, as far as the characters, Chris Washington, obviously, he's the main character. Chris is essentially duped uh, after basically a 4-month relationship with this woman. He's intimate with her. He trusts her. They seem to have a very good relationship up until this point. Um, the girlfriend, it's Rose Armitage. Uh, Her parents are Dean and Missy Armitage. The dad is a neurosurgeon and kind of like the brains behind this whole mind transfer uh, deal. Missy is a psychiatrist. Jeremy, who is the brother, uh, I don't really like that guy. I don't like that guy in any movies I've ever seen him in. And then Rod, which is basically the comic relief of the movie. That's Chris's friend who works at the TSA. One of the weird things that I did find uh, after doing a little research was also that um, I don't, I didn't get the names of the groundskeeper and the housemaid, but those people, the black people in those scenes, uh, were Rose's grandparents. That really blew my mind. Um, so I was going to read a little bit from my film journal that it kind of summarizes more or less what I've been trying to say. Jordan Peele's 2017 release of Get Out is a thought-provoking psychological horror film, uh, is an original masterpiece tying America's long-standing subjugation and historical legacy of slavery to modern-day racial dynamics. The film reveals the evolution of systemic racism as it is clothed in the subtlety of white liberalism and the perpetuation of racial inequality. As I stated in my journal, I'm not a real big horror film person, mostly because as kids, you go to sleepovers and everybody wants to watch Friday the 13th or they want to watch Freddy Krueger movies. Just not my cup of tea. So the two scenes that I chose to analyze, the first question talks about the historical and cultural context uh, within the film and compare and contrast with today's cultural historical context. The first scene is the auction scene, which is time-stamped 5937. The silent auction. Um, Essentially, this mimics slave auctions, and comparing and contrasting to today's culture. Um, it basically it just is comparative to racism and cultural appropriation, which is highly relevant within the film structure. The second scene that I chose to analyze was the hypnosis scene, um, which essentially starts around minute 36:18. Um, well, it actually starts like a minute or two before that, actually, but what I had listed was for the extreme close up. So, um, both of these scenes were instrumental in the success of this film. Um, the silent auction, it made me sick to my stomach. It was kind of hard to watch, mostly because you realize what exactly is going on as you watch each of um, the guests hold up um, bingo cards. Uh, that I found that to be very disgusting, but obviously to get his point across, um, that's basically what needed to happen. Um, so the next question was how the camera angles were used to help tell the story and communicate the ideas. Okay, so for the silent auction scene, um, I started out with a medium close up, which is 1 minute uh, and 39 seconds, which was kind of just after the start of the auction. The wide angle shows a group of guests, an extreme close up of the bingo card at 1 minute, 1 second, and 13. So 1:01:13. And then the cutaways going in between the silent auction and Rose and Chris uh, down by the lake. On the second scene, which is the hypnosis scene, the extreme close up was at 36:18. Um, I read a little bit about that, and basically that um, when Chris cries, that they really only had to do that in one take. That it was real. Um, the high angle was as Chris is sinking into the sunken place at 37:45, and then the wide shot at 37:59, where you just see his body basically suspended within the sunken place. Very interesting. Like I didn't realize like how that would make me uh, like I guess connect with the character, seeing exactly what he was going through and what he was feeling. It was very interesting to watch. Um, Now, the third question says, how is sound used to help tell the story and communicate ideas? Um, the same scenes, uh, the silent auction, basically, it had uh, a violin in the background, uh, but no words. Everything was silent, forcing the audience to focus on the visual cues, which was that the hand signals, from Dean, and the bingo card. The guests moving around. You can barely hear them, but it makes you focus on what's happening in that scene. Um, as far as the music and the sound in um, the hypnosis scene, I put down the spoon scraping the teacup at 34:24. Basically, the scene, uh, by doing the spoon, it's evoking fear and terror, um, and immersing you into the psychological experience of what Chris is going through. All right. Question 4 was, how did these scenes use lighting to convey meaning? I used the same scenes, which is the silent auction. Um, the silent auction was the bright natural lighting. However, um, it's deceptive in its contrast because of what's really going on. the dark meaning behind the auction. It's the duality of what is actually taking place. Um, Now, the same scene for the light in the hypnosis scene is that the room is warm and welcoming, reflecting a non-threatening environment. Then, as Missy starts putting Chris under hypnosis, uh, the light shifts to a darker, colder place, conveying isolation and helplessness. It's a power shift, which I found very interesting because at first you think that Chris has all the control, or he's able to control himself. But once he goes into hypnosis, he's no longer in control. Question 5 was what themes were explored in the movie and how were they communicated on visual level in the scene I chose. Um, the theme was the slave auction. It was dehumanizing and oppression, overt racism. In the hypnosis scene, it's loss of control, psychological imprisonment, racial trauma, childhood trauma. Question number 7. What are some similarities and comparisons you can make between this film and the previous films you watched in the course? Okay, so let me get back to my notes here. All three, the films that I chose were Battleship Potemkin and The Citizen Kane. Along with Get Out, is that they're all landmark films, despite their differences in genre. Their approach to the film as an art form is that their use of innovative cinematic techniques and their engagement with social and political themes to convey their message. In the Battleship Potemkin, uses the iconic image, or let me retract, or step back. Each of these films use visual symbolism in order to convey their thought, their message. With the Battleship Potemkin, it uses the Odessa steps to symbolize collective struggle and oppression. Citizen Kane used Rosebud and the vast empty spaces of Xanadu to symbolize loss and the hollowness of power. And then Get Out uses the sunken place as a visual metaphor for psychological imprisonment and marginalization. The Battleship Potemkin is mostly political. Citizen Kane was essentially more about corruption and wealth. And then obviously Get Out was about racism. Each of these films uses its narrative and characters to reflect the society at that particular time. Potemkin addresses class struggle, whereas Citizen Kane looks at personal ambition and American identity. And Get Out explores modern racial anxieties and microaggressions. Okay, go back. All right, and the last question is how is Rose and Chris's relationship conveyed visually from the first scene to the last scene? Okay. Okay. Sorry, shuffling all my papers. Okay, so Chris and Rose's relationship in the first scene was intimate, given the impression that he trusts her and that they are very close. I believe somewhere in there they had basically said that they'd been dating for 4 months. I think whenever they first got to the house, and Dean asked how long has this thing been going on, and I believe that's when he said they'd been dating for about 4 months. the last scene uh, is after he's already escaped from the house and he's in the car, which I also looked at the car. The car was white, which really kind of, I guess, symbolized uh, white authority, or basically like the differences between black and white. Basically kind of a play on the color of the car. Um, but the last scene is where Chris is strangling Rose uh, after she had been shot, and she'd been shot by Walter, um, and then obviously Walter killed himself, and then after Rod gets there, Chris stops, and because he thinks it's the police and not Rod, and he goes and gets in the car. She dies. Um, so basically, from their first scene, being in love, being close, to the last scene where he's angry and he's frustrated and he's scared, and he's I would even go as far as to say he probably hates her. I can't imagine what that would look like. Knowing that somebody did that to you, I couldn't imagine what that would feel like, and I don't want to know. But I would think this, that Chris would probably never trust another white person again after that scenario. I don't feel like um, that that paints a good picture of relations, but between races and stuff. It's actually kind of scary, because a lot of people would probably look at this movie and actually think that that's what, how white people really are. And I don't know. Like I said, I generally don't like scary movies or psychological thriller type movies, but this movie was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, but I'll be honest with you, it did kind of, bother me on several levels. Um, you know, I guess as a white male, um, you never want to be perceived as having microaggressions or being the type of person that would um, be racial, but at the same time, it does open your eyes, and I think maybe that's what Jordan Peele was trying to do, was trying to open our eyes to what's really going on. Cultural appropriation, microaggressions, uh, racism, and without us actually really knowing um, that we're doing those things. Um, I think our society has gotten to a point where it's almost acceptable to do those things, to say those things, to be that way. And I think that it's very important for us to really look at ourselves and decide that that's wrong and that we need to change that, because you start to see what we see in our society nowadays, and you realize that this had a starting point, and that starting point has created what we're seeing right now. The issues, the problems, the brokenness. Um, you know, I really wish that we could find a common ground to be on, to where people would not feel marginalized, where they would not feel oppressed, because at this, when we see stuff like this, it really, it puts a divide, and it's unfortunate and it's sad, um, and it really does make you feel like there's not any hope, and that's unfortunate, and I don't like that kind of stuff. I want to get along with everyone. I want to take care of everyone if I can, but I mean, I know that's not possible, but I don't want to see people suffer. And to see something like this, to see this movie, and to understand the meaning and the root behind it, it is troubling. So, uh, with all that being said, uh, I know my little video essays tend to run long, but thank you for your time. I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and I hope you enjoyed this movie as much as I did. Thanks.